Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to more JDT. A little bit of a different video coming at you, and that is predicting the NFL season 2024 to 2025. Let's get right into it because I actually don't have a lot of time trying to predict all this stuff today. I have to do a lot of stuff, so we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna go by each team's whole schedule, and we're gonna go through it like this. So first things first, we got the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs. How do I think their schedule and season is going to shape up? Now, they have the Thursday night game. I'm recording this right now on Wednesday, so I don't know when this is going to come up, but I will let you guys know this will be recorded before the Thursday, Friday. This whole week, this will be recorded before that, so I can get these very wrong. But I'm going to take the Chiefs in week 1 against the Ravens, taking the dub. Then I got the Bengals in Kansas City. Joe Burrow makes his amazing return into Kansas City, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a teaser in the playoffs, and Burrow actually upsets Kansas City. We're gonna have all these talks like, oh my goodness, is Burrow back? Is the Bengals gonna finally do it this year? This and that, whatever. So I got the Bengals taking over that win right there. Then you move on to week 3. I got the Chiefs beating the Falcons. I got the Chiefs beating the Chargers. I got the Chiefs beating the Saints heading into the bye week. Very, there's not much to really explain here. Mahomes, they have better receivers. The defense is still great. Then you got Kansas City and San Francisco. Now, San Francisco wanting to get revenge off of the Super Bowl loss, but I think Kansas City goes in there off the bye week, and they actually beat the Niners. Then you got Kansas City and the Raiders in Las Vegas. They win. Kansas City at home against the Bucks. They win. Against the Broncos, they win. In Buffalo, Josh Allen has less weapons than he did the last few times they played Kansas City, and Kansas City always still won. I take the Chiefs again. Chiefs against Carolina, they win. Chiefs at home against the Raiders, they win. Chiefs at home against the Chargers, they win. Chiefs on the road against the Cleveland Browns. Now, Cleveland, this could be really depending on what their record is at this point. Going into Cleveland's a hard game and a hard place to play, especially at the end of the year. So I actually kind of want to give it to the Cleveland Browns, especially with their defense, but I don't know what the offense is going to be doing. It's going to be a tough game. This could be an upset alert type of thing, Cleveland beating Kansas City, but I'm going to take the Chiefs regardless. I take the Chiefs over Houston. I got the Chiefs over the Steelers. And then to end it, the Chiefs might take an L to the Broncos just because the Chiefs might be resting everybody. So I'm going to give Denver the win at the end of week 18 off of a rest, which will give the Chiefs a record of 15-2. Now, I know, crazy record, but it is Kansas City. They have a better team this year than they did last year. You never freaking know. With that being said, let's move over to the NFC side of things with the Super Bowl runner-ups, the San Francisco 49ers. See how they're going to do this year. They have Monday night primetime first game against Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Hopefully Rodgers stays healthy, but I'm taking the Niners in this game as well. Niners are on the road in Minnesota. I got the Niners winning. Niners on the road against the Rams. I got the Rams upsetting the Niners in LA. Now it's in LA. I think the Rams take the dub. Patriots in San Francisco. San Fran wins. Cardinals in San Francisco. San Fran wins. San Fran in Seattle. This game could actually probably go to Seattle. I'm very, very curious to see what Seattle will do against the Niners. I'm going to take Seattle in Seattle on a Thursday primetime game. I think that'll be a little bit of an upset there. Dallas in San Fran. I'm a Cowboy fan before anybody. If you don't know, you know what's going on. I'm a Dallas fan, but I'm going to take San Francisco here. Then San Fran goes into the bye week. I don't think San Fran's going to drop 3 games in a row. That's basically what I think. They're going to lose to the Seahawks, lose to the Chiefs, and they're going to beat us. I don't think they're going to drop 3 games. Then they go into Tampa. I got San Fran winning. At home, hosting Seattle, they get the revenge. They win. In Green Bay, I actually have the Packers taking the dub over the Niners. In Green Bay, in Lambeau Field. I feel like it's going to be a little bit tough for the Niners, and they'll be a little bit chilly over there at that point, so I'll take the Packers. Niners over the Bills. I'm going to take the Niners over the Bears. Niners this time hosting the Rams. I'll take the Niners. Niners going into Miami. I think they drop a game to Miami in Miami. And then I think the Lions actually pull back a game against the Niners, and they get revenge from the last year's playoffs. And then to finish off the game, the Niners want a good record, so I think they're actually going to just beat the Cardinals in Arizona, which will leave the San Francisco 49ers at 11-6 record. Not too bad, not too shabby. Now, what's another good team that a lot of people have high hopes for? Let's go with division winners. Division winning Houston Texans. I got the home opener, or not the home opener, but the opener in Indianapolis. They take the dub. Chicago in Houston. I got Houston winning again. Houston beating the Vikings. Houston beating the Jags. Houston beating the Bills. Houston beating the Patriots. Houston in Green Bay. That's when they take an L, and Green Bay takes a dub in Green Bay territory, and that's going to be the first loss for the Houston Texans. Now, Houston at home against the Colts, they take a dub there. Houston at New York. I feel like the Jets could actually pull off a huge upset here, especially if Aaron Rodgers is healthy. So I'm actually going to go with the Jets winning on Thursday against the Texans. I actually got the Lions also beating the Houston Texans at an away game in Houston. So they drop back to back, which leads me to Dallas. And Monday night, I think Houston takes the dub in Dallas. I think CJ Stroud laughs at Micah Parsons because his team beats us. And I'm being very fair. I'm being very unbiased in this record. Houston hosting Tennessee, they get the win. Houston traveling to Jacksonville, they get the win. Houston against Miami in Houston, and Houston takes the dub there. Then they lose to the Chiefs. Then I think Baltimore beats Houston in Houston, and then I think Houston at a 11-5 record won a little bit of a better record, so they win the last game against Tennessee, which will put them at 12-5 on the season, which honestly, not a bad record at all. Yes, it's a new day, and it'll probably keep getting newer because I actually don't have time right now either to do this, but we're going to keep going ahead. So that was the Houston Texans record. I said they were going to go 12-5 with a 6-2 at home record and a 6-0 division record, which is very, very nice. Now, another team that people are looking at is the Detroit Lions. Now, Detroit's an interesting one, you know what I mean? Detroit, people have Detroit actually winning the Super Bowl. So they start off at home against the LA Rams, another Matthew Stafford visit in Detroit. I think they take it right there. They start, now they're basically, I have them already beating the Texans down here, and I already have them beating the Niners down here. So they're actually 3-0 at this moment. They host Tampa Bay, they win that. They go into Arizona, they win that. They host Seattle, they win. They go into Dallas after the bye. I got Detroit beating us after the bye week. They get revenge from that last debacle or incident. They go into Minnesota, and Minnesota's a tough one. See, I felt like J.J. McCarthy would have done stuff, but they have him out. I got the Vikings taking a dub there. It is tough to play Minnesota. I think that's when they get their first official loss. Then they host Tennessee. They bounce back with a win. Then they lose in Green Bay. So you see they start off hot. 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 5-1, 6-1, 6-2. Then they win again. Then they win again. Then they go into Indianapolis. They win again. They host Chicago. They win. They host Green Bay. They get the revenge. They win. They host Buffalo. They win. They go into Chicago. And I think Caleb Williams gets a little bit of an upset there. Then they ended off with a win against the Niners, and they ended off with a win against the Minnesota Vikings at home, which will put the Detroit Lions at a 14-30 record. I can see that really happening. I know Chicago, it's a little bit of a stretch there, but I feel like Caleb Williams will pull off a cool little nice upset on them real quick. Now, another team that people are looking forward to is the Baltimore Ravens. They won last year. MVP Lamar Jackson. Let's see what their record's going to hold. They lose the first game to the Chiefs. I already had that stated. Raiders go into Baltimore. They end up taking the dub. Then Baltimore goes into Dallas. They win that game too. Buffalo comes into Baltimore. They win. Buffalo goes into Cincinnati. They lose. Then they host Washington. They take the win. Then they beat the Bucs. They go into Cleveland. They lose. Then they host Denver. They win. They host Cincinnati, get the revenge. They win. They go into Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh takes a surprising W over the Ravens. Then they go into the LA Chargers. It's a brotherly battle between the Harbaughs. I think Baltimore takes a dub against the Chargers. Then they host the Eagles. They get a win there. There's a bye week. They go into New York. They win. They host the Steelers. They win. They beat Houston. I already have that there. And they end up the season to beat the Cleveland Browns at home. Baltimore will be going 13-4 with a 3-3 division record. So another team that people want to see fail and is my personal favorite team is the Dallas Cowboys. Now, you've already seen we won the division last year. And you can see that I already have us at 0-4. I got us losing to the Ravens, to the Lions, to the Niners, to the Houston Texans. So let's see what I really have for the Dallas Cowboys this year. I got us beating Cleveland in Cleveland. I know people are saying Cleveland's going to win. I got us taking the dub. In Dallas against New Orleans, we win. So we start off 2-0 after taking our first loss. Then against New York, we win. Then going into Pittsburgh, we win. Then we lose at home in Detroit. I think it's going to be a little bit of an opposite from last year. Last year we were really good at home. I think this year we're going to lose a few games at home. Lose to Detroit. Coming off the bye week, we lose again to the Niners. We ended up we take a game against the Falcons. Then we go at home and we beat the Eagles at home. We lose to Houston at home. We beat Washington away. We beat the Giants at home. We lose to Cincinnati, them coming into our house. Then we beat the Carolina Panthers. We end up beating Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We lose to Philly. We split games with them. And then at the end, we end up taking the W against the Washington Commanders, which will put us on 11-6 record overall. I think the 12-5 streak finally comes to an end, but we are 5-1 in the division. We go undefeated pretty well. There's some games that I feel like we could actually probably take. Like we could actually maybe beat the Bengals. We beat them with Cooper Rush, to be fair, one year. We could maybe take the game from the Texans. But I'm just trying to be unbiased as possible, and I'm just trying to see exactly how our season could shape out, and it could definitely shape out with 11-6. Moving back to the AFC, what's a team that we need to look at? I think Buffalo won the division last year, and right now I have Buffalo at an 0-5 record. Yeah, they're dropping a lot of games here. I actually don't have high hopes for Buffalo at all. First game at home against Arizona, I think they take the win. They go into Miami, they lose. They are in Jacksonville, or in Buffalo against Jacksonville, they take the win against them. And they lose to the Ravens, lose to the Texans. Then they go into New York, I think they take an L there. They host Tennessee, they win. They go into Seattle. Ooh, I think they lose in Seattle. Then they host Miami. They win. They go into Indianapolis. I think they win that game. They lose to the Chiefs. They go in their bye. They lose to the Niners. Then they play in LA. The Rams take that. They lose to Detroit. They host Patriots. They win. They host the Jets. They win. They go into New England. They win. So they finish off the season with 3 straight wins, which will put them at an 8-9 record in total for the Buffalo Bills. I don't think they're going to have a good year this year. I think it's going to go pretty downhill. I don't know why. I just feel like they don't have the weapons around Josh Allen. I'm not saying he can't do it. Dalton Kincaid is probably going to do really good. So is James Cook. But I just feel like for some reason, something's not going to stick this year. And Buffalo's going to have a rocky season. Back to the NFC. Let's go to Tampa Bay. They won their division last year, and right now I got them starting off at 0-5. But let's see what they can manufacture and do. I got them beating the Washington Commanders at home. Then they lose to Detroit. I got them beating Denver. I actually got them beating the Philadelphia Eagles. They beat them in the playoffs. I think they're going to do it again. They go into Atlanta. They take an L there. They go into New Orleans. They win that game. They lose to the Ravens. They host Atlanta. They win this one. They lose to Kansas City. They lose to the Niners. Go into their bye. Bounce back off the bye. They win against the Giants. They win against the Panthers. They win at home against the Raiders. They go to the Chargers, and I think they lose. They go to Dallas. They lose. They host Carolina. They win. They host the Saints. They win. Tampa Bay goes at a 10-7 record is my estimated guess. I think that is a fair record to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield is better than a lot of people give him credit for, so I'm hoping he has a good year. I'm always a big fan of him. Moving on to another team in the AFC. We have to finally move around. Let's actually move to the Miami Dolphins. Let's see what I got the Miami Dolphins record at. Right now, they're a solid 2-2, 500. Let's see. They open against Jacksonville. They win. They also beat the Bills. Then they go into Seattle. Got them winning that game. Then they host Tennessee. I got them winning. They go into New England. They're always good in Foxborough for some reason. I got them winning. No, I say the way around, right? Well, I got them beating the Patriots anyways. Then they go into their bye in Indianapolis. They win. At home against Arizona, they win. They lose in Buffalo. Then they lose in the LA Rams house. Then they beat the Raiders. They beat the Patriots. They lose in Green Bay because it's going to be cold at this time. And Tua, we all know him. They host the Jets. They win. They lose to Houston. They beat the Niners. Then the last 2 games, Cleveland and New York, they lose to Cleveland, they lose to the Jets, which will put them at an 11-6 record, which is better than the Buffalo Bills. So right now, you have the Dolphins leading that division at 11-6. Heading over to another NFC team, you know what? Let's go Green Bay. Let's go Jordan Love. I got them at 4-1 right now. I got them beating the Philadelphia Eagles in Brazil. I think they'd actually upset them and take the win. In Green Bay against the Colts, I think they got the win there. They go into Tennessee, I think they take the win. In Green Bay against the Vikings, they win. Then they go to the Rams house. They lose. They come back with a win against Arizona, against Houston, and then they go into Jacksonville. What do I got Jacksonville at right now? 0-5. Jacksonville's going to have to need a good... I think Jacksonville's going to bust this year. But you know what? I'll give them a win against the Packers. Then they beat the Lions. They come off their bye. They go into Chicago, and I think Caleb Williams shows up the Packers. Then they win, they lose. Then they go into Seattle, which I think is going to be a tough game always. And I'm going to actually give the win to the Seahawks. They host Green Bay. They host the Saints, they win. They go into Minnesota, they lose. Then they end off with a win here against Chicago, which will put them at 11-6 record. Again, still giving the division to the Detroit Lions at the moment. I might switch Jacksonville's game. This one can go either way, but I'll give the Jacksonville because it's at home. I haven't really given them much at all. So speaking of the Jags, let's go Jacksonville. I got them at 1-5 right now. Not a great record. They lose to the Dolphins. They then host the Cleveland Browns. I got Browns beating them. Then they lose to the Bills, lose to Houston. So they're 0-4. They come against the Colts. They win. Then they go against Chicago. In Chicago, they lose. Then they host the Patriots. They win. They win. They go into Philly. Philly takes the win there. Minnesota comes into Jacksonville. They win. They lose to Detroit. They lose to the Texans. Then they lose to the Tennessee Titans. They host the Jets. And that's a tough one. I'm going to give it to the Jets. Then they go into Oakland. Into Oakland. Then they go into the Raiders. They win. Then I got them beating Tennessee, and then I got them losing to the Colts at the end. So I think the Jags go 5-12, and they have a bust year with the new paid Trevor Lawrence. I don't know why. I just feel like Jackson will not do well this year. I got them going at 5-12, which is not the greatest record. So back to the NFC side of things. Let's go Rams. I've been pretty high on the Rams, so let's see what I got them going at. They lose the opening game, but then they bounce back with a win in Arizona. Then they beat the Niners at home. Then they go into Chicago. I think they get another dub there. Then they win at home against Green Bay. Then they got the bye week. They beat the Raiders. They're going to beat the Vikings. They drop one of their first games to Seattle in Seattle. They beat the Dolphins. They go into New England. They win. They're hosting the Eagles. I think they beat the Eagles. Then they go into New Orleans. They win that. They win at home here. They lose one game here. Then I think they lose to the Jets as well. Then I think they end off with a win and a win here, both at home, which will put them at a 13-4 record, which is better than the San Francisco 49ers. I think the Rams are going to make a comeback here and try to make a huge, big push. The Bengals. Oh, Joey Cool Burrow. looking like that blonde man, you know what I'm saying, looking like Eminem nowadays. But we'll see what I got their record going at. I already had them at 3-1, which is actually not bad. I only got them losing once to the Ravens so far, so let's see what we got. Opening kickoff game against the Patriots, they take the win. I got them upsetting the Chiefs. Then I got them beating the Commanders, beating Carolina, beating the Ravens at home, beating the Giants. I think they take an L to Cleveland in Cleveland. Then they beat the Eagles at home. They beat the Raiders at home. They lose to Baltimore. Then they go into the Chargers Dome, and I got them actually winning that game. Then there's a bye week. They host Pittsburgh. They win. They beat us. They beat the Dallas Cowboys, obviously. Then they go into Tennessee. They win that. They win at home against Cleveland. They win at home against the Denver Broncos. And then at the end, they are 13-2. They take an L to Pittsburgh in the last game of the season. Oh, I forgot to do that. Sorry. 14-3. I actually forgot to press them here. So I got the Bengals going to 14-3, winning the division just by one game over the Ravens so far in this little thing I got here going on. Let's go Philadelphia. I hate the Eagles. I'm a Dallas fan. You can see it right here. I love Dallas. I hate the Eagles, but I'm still going to be very fair. Now, I got them dropping the first game to the Green Bay Packers, and then I don't have them losing to the Falcons. They're going to beat the Saints, and I got them losing to Tampa. So right now, 4-6, but 2-2 to start the year. Off of their bye, they host Cleveland in Philly. Because of that, I'm giving them the win. Then they beat the Giants. They lose to the Bengals, beat the Jags, lose to us, beat Washington, lose to the Rams, lose to the Ravens, beat Carolina, beat Pittsburgh, beat Washington again, beat us, beat the Giants, and now put them at 11-6, tied for the division with the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, it'd be a tough one. I think that's going to be it's going to be basically just an even draw, and whatever happens in one of the games happens. And I think it's going to be a really close battle between Dallas and Philly for mediocrity kind of in that division. Let's go back to the AFC and let's go do one of these teams. Let's go do the Chargers with the new head coach Jim Harbaugh. Now, their host the Raiders first game, I think they take the dub. Then they go against Carolina, they win. They go into Pittsburgh, I think they lose, and they lose to Kansas City going into their bye week. They play in Denver. I'm going to give the Chargers that game. They go into Arizona. I think Arizona upsets the Chargers and they win it. Then I got them beating the Saints. I got them in Cleveland losing. They host the Tennessee Titans. They win. Then they lose to the Cincinnati Bengals, Baltimore Ravens. They beat Atlanta. Then they... Actually, I got Atlanta beating the Chargers. They lose to the Chiefs. Then they beat the Bucks. Then they beat the Broncos again. Beat the Patriots. And then at the end, they lose to the Raiders, which would put the Chargers at a 8-9 record on the year, which I actually don't think it's too bad. There's a lot of hype on the Atlanta Falcons this year. Right now, I got them at 2-4. Do I have them over Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year? Let's see. They start off the first game against Pittsburgh. I got them winning that game. Then they drop a game. They drop another one. Host New Orleans. They win that. They beat the Bucks. They go into Carolina. They win. They host Seattle. I think Seattle takes a surprise win there. Then Tampa beating them. They lose to us, so they drove 3 games in a row. They finally get a game back in New Orleans. And they beat Denver in Denver. Then they host the Chargers. They win. Then they go into Minnesota. I think they beat Minnesota. Kirk Cousins gets a revenge game. Then they go into the Raiders. They lose. Then they host the Giants. They win. They go into Washington. They win, and they end up the game or end up the year with a win against Carolina, which would put them at 11-6, which would be enough to take over the division against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. To the New York Jets. I think this one's going to be a funny one. If Aaron Rodgers and all of them can stay healthy, this will be an interesting team to watch. 5-3, I have them at the moment. Let's go. I got them losing to the Niners. They bounce back. They beat Tennessee. They host the Patriots. They win. They host the Broncos. They win. They go into Minnesota. They win. They host the Bills. They win. They go into Pittsburgh. They take an L. They go into New England. They win. They beat and upset the Texans. Then they go into Arizona. They win again. They host the Colts. They win. They host Seattle. They host Seattle. Seattle beats them. Then they go in to Miami. They lose. Then they go into Jacksonville. They win. And then they end off with a win-loss-win, which will put the Jets at a 12-5 record. I'm going to have the Cardinals upset the New York Jets, actually. I'm going to change this pick. I think Cardinals are going to upset them. The Cardinals are going to have a decent year this year. This could also be an upset, too, but I got the Jets at 11-6. Tied with the Dolphins, but I think the Dolphins will win the division regardless. Heading back over to the NFC. Let's see what team we can go with. Let's go Arizona, because I was talking about them, and I wanted you guys to see what I got. They lose. Then they end up getting a dub here against Washington. Then they lose again. Then they lose again. Then they win. Then they lose. Then they host Chicago. Very important. I'm going to take them as a win there. Then they beat the Jets. They go into their bye week. They go into Seattle. They lose. They go into Minnesota. They lose. They host Seattle. They win. Host the Patriots. They win. Go into Carolina. They win. Go into the Rams. They lose. And then they host the Niners at the end. They lose. I got the Cardinals going 7-10. Not a bad record. Not great. Obviously not enough to make the playoffs or anything like that, but not bad at all. I think Arizona will have a decently better season than they did last year. Back to the AFC. I haven't done Cleveland Browns, so let's do it. I think they got a loss against us, Dallas Cowboys, and they got a win. Then they beat the Giants. Go into the Raiders, they win. Beat the Washington Commanders, lose to the Eagles. Then they win, all at home, 3 straight games. Then they go in the bye week. They beat the Saints. They host the Steelers. They win that. They go into Denver. They win. They go into Pittsburgh, they lose. They lose to the Chiefs, then they lose again, then they win, then they lose again. To end the season, Cleveland goes 11-6. Right there with Baltimore, right there with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this division is going to be one of the best divisions we've seen in football this year. Let's do Chicago Bears. The rookie, Caleb Williams. Let's see what I got them going. I got them 3-6. Now, fun fact, a first overall quarterback, the first round quarterback pick, number 1 out of overall, has not won their starting game since 2002. David Carr did it. But I think the record gets broken here, and Caleb Williams beats the Tennessee Titans. They lose in Houston. Then they go against the Colts, and then they lose to the Colts. Then they lose against the Rams, but then they pick up a win here, pick up another win. Going into the bye, they go into Washington, they pick up a win. Lose to Arizona, pick up a win against the Patriots, win against the Packers. In Chicago against Minnesota, they win. And they lose and lose. Then they go into Minnesota, they lose. And they host, they win. They host Seattle. I think it's an upset win, and they get the job done. And then they lose to the Packers. So we finish at a 9-8 record for the first year of Caleb Williams. More wins than losses. You like to see it. I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think they have a good shot at getting more wins than what I gave them. But we'll see how that all pans out. I'm kind of giving the Indianapolis Colts a hard time, so let's see what I got with them. They are a 2-8 record right now. I got them losing, winning. They host Pittsburgh. I think they win. Then they go into Jacksonville, they lose. They go into Tennessee, they lose. They lose to Miami. They lose to the Houston Texans. They go into Minnesota, I think they lose that too. Then you got Buffalo and Indianapolis. I got Buffalo win. They lose. They go into New England. They win. They go into Denver. I think they also win that game. They host Tennessee. They win. They beat the Giants. They win. And the Colts end up with a 7-10 record this year with Anthony Richardson coming back and trying to do his damn best. Now, these are all kind of getting a little bit confusing now, and I feel like I'm wrong on so many levels, but you know, we'll see how things go. With the Washington Commanders. Now, there's a lot of hope this year because they have Dan Quinn, and I had them 0-11, so obviously not the biggest fan. But I got them beating the Giants, and they got to take a couple losses here. Then they host Carolina, they win that game. They go into New York, I think they win that game. They host the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think, yeah, they lose that game. Then they go into Philadelphia, they lose. I'm gonna say they lose to Tennessee as well. They are in New Orleans, they lose that game, and then they lose to end up the year. Commanders go 3-14 on the season. I just don't think they're going to win much games this year. I feel like Jaden Daniels will have a great rookie year, but I just don't think they're going to do enough to really get anything going. Speaking of Tennessee, I've been kind of hard on them this year. I only got them 3-12, and they actually boosted their team up a lot. So let's see what I got them. Loss to start off. Then they get their first one after their bye. They lose. Then they beat the Patriots at home. And they host the Vikings. I think they win that game too. They lose to Houston. They go into Washington. They win. They host there. They lose. Or they win. They lose. They win. They lose. They lose. And they lose. Which will put them at a 5-12 record on the year. Tennessee Titans. Same as the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's do Seattle. We haven't done Seahawks. And right now I got them on a 7-6. So this can go either way. So let's go. They start off with a win here against Denver. Then they go into New England. They win that. Then they finally lose their first game. They lose again. They host the Giants. They win. And a win, then a win, then a win, and a win. They go on a huge winning streak. A bye. They come off the bye. They lose. They win against the Jets. They lose here against the Cardinals. Surprise loss. Then they win here. Then they beat the Vikings. And they lose to Chicago. And then they lose to the Rams, which will put them at an 11-6 record, just tied with the Niners. But they're going to be 3-3 in the division, where the Niners will be 4-2. So we haven't done the Raiders. So let's do the Raiders. I got them losing first two weeks, and they got a win against Carolina, a loss against Cleveland, a win in Denver, a win hosting the Steelers. Then they lose to the Rams, then they lose here, then they lose here. Bye, they lose, they host Denver, they win. Then they lose, win. They go into New Orleans. I got them winning that game. Derek Carr does not get his revenge game. And then they win at the end there. Raiders go 8-9 on the year in the season as well. So honestly, not too bad. Which brings me to what I got New Orleans. Right now I got them at a 1-12 record, so not great, but I think they open up a win with Carolina. Then they lose. Then they lose again. They host Denver. I got them winning that game. Then they'll lose against, which is a Sean Payton revenge game. I think he takes the L there. Then they host, then the Chargers host them. They lose. I think Carolina upsets them in Carolina. Then they lose. Then they go against the Giants. I think the Saints win that game. Then they lose, or they win, win, loss. The Saints finish off with a 4-13 record. Obviously not the best. Pittsburgh will complete the AFC North. Let's see what I got them right now. 69 record. They can bounce it back easily. They lose the first game. They bounce it back with a win in Denver. Then they win again. Then they lose. They lose, win in Pittsburgh against the Giants. They win the bye week. They win again. They lose. They win. They lose here. Win here, which will put them at 8-9, a losing record. You know what? I'm actually going to switch a game. I'm going to make a switch, and it's a bold switch, but I'm taking Pittsburgh over Philadelphia. And then I put them at 9-9 or 9-8 which is a winning record for Pittsburgh again, and then they'll put Philly back down 10-7, which will easily make this the go ahead. I know it's weird, but I just feel like Eagles at home, Pittsburgh could easily take the upset there. Maybe something happens by week 15. I don't know. I feel like that's the one game I can probably switch without feeling too. Without feeling too again. I could switch the Colts game too, but I think Indianapolis takes a surprising win there. Back to the NFC. What else do we got? I haven't done the Carolina's record yet. Let's see what we got. I got them losing in Denver, loss. Then they win against New Orleans and the Giants. Then they come off the bye, loss to end the year. They're going to finish with a 2-15 record. I feel bad for Carolina, I really do, and I want them to do good. And I'm a Bryce Young fan, and I like him, but I just don't see any way of kind of panning out anything for Carolina this year, to be honest with you. Have we done Denver? We haven't done Denver, I don't think. Have we done Denver? We might have done Denver. We basically have done Denver. I don't know if I've shown the Denver Broncos, but I got them going 2-50 as well. Wow, actually, really? I got Denver going 2-15. I have to switch some here. I'm not going to lie. Denver, I don't think they're going to lose many games. Okay, I think I'm going to switch the Colts game to Denver. I think they win that. I got them beating the Chiefs at the end because the Chiefs are just going to take it easy. Bengals lost, Chargers lost. Yeah, I agree with that. I think I can see them beating the Falcons, but I'll take the Falcons still. In New Orleans, oh, I don't know. In New Orleans, like, that could be a switch. Sean Payton returns to New Orleans and wins. Yeah, I might do that, actually. Let's do that. So I'll take Denver 4-13, I think. I think that'll be the record for the Denver Broncos. I feel like they can do good, but it might just, I think they finish bottom of the division. So yeah, I've done Carolina, I've done the Saints, I've done the Bucks, I've done the Falcons. I haven't done the Giants. They lose to Minnesota home opener, then they lose again, they lose again, they go off the bye, they lose. I basically got them 0-17. They lose. I have the Giants at an 0-17 record. I think they split with Washington. I think they take one from Washington. That's all I can really see happening, I'll be honest with you. They might take it from the Colts, but I highly doubt it. I'm going to stick with 1-16 as the Giants record. And they probably get the first round pick next year and take a quarterback with it. So let's do the New England Patriots. So I'm missing them. They lose. I have them also in 0-17. I don't think New England drops to 0-17. There's definitely going to be a game where they take instead of dropping it. And I think they're going to, you know what? I'm going to give them the Bills game. I'm going to give them a Chargers game. That's all I can really give them, to be honest with you. That's all I can really see giving them. Maybe they beat Miami at home, but I don't see it happening. I'm going to say the Patriots go 2-15 this year. Yeah, that's, you know what? They win the last two games. I think maybe that's reasonable. 2-15 for the Patriots. I haven't done the Vikings, sorry. Minnesota's the last team we have to go over, and then we get into the playoffs. Minnesota, all right, now I got them 6-11. They win, they lose, they win. They lose, they win, they lose, they win, they lose, they win, they lose, they win, they lose. Yeah, so there's a 6-11. All right, so there's your playoffs. Those are your standings, ladies and gentlemen. And now this is where we're set up. So, off of my predictions, and this will be the draft order, by the way. The Giants, Panthers, Commanders, Patriots, Saints, Broncos, Titans, Jags, Colts, Vikings, Chargers, Cardinals, Bills, Raiders, Bears, Steelers, Bucks, Eagles. So I don't even have the Eagles making it. Oh man, that doesn't seem right. But you know what? I have three teams from the West. Niners, Seahawks, and Rams all making it. I actually can see that happening. That division is pretty good. Yeah, that's fine. Maybe the Eagles don't make it this year. I don't know. I actually feel like either the Eagles or the Dallas are going to bust this year. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. Let's go AFC first, then we'll go to NFC. So we'll go AFC. We have the 2-seeded Bengals against the 7-seeded Browns. I got the Bengals up, or just not upsetting, beating the Cleveland Browns at Cincinnati. Then Seattle traveling into LA. I'll take the Rams on that one. The Rams obviously going to take the dub there. Then we go into the Jets against Houston in Houston. Aaron Rodgers magic in Houston. I don't know, but I'm going to take the Houston Texans in Houston. Then we got Niners in Dallas. I just don't see us beating San Francisco, so I'll take the Niners over Dallas in Dallas. I think we choke again in the wild card round, being realistic as possible. Then I take the Baltimore Ravens to upset the Miami Dolphins in Miami, and then I got the Packers upsetting the Falcons in Atlanta. That would be my playoffs at the moment. Going into the next round, obviously the Chiefs have the first round bye and the Lions have the first round bye. So we move into the next round. Houston in Cincinnati. I think Burrow takes out CJ Stroud, and I think the Ravens take an L to the Kansas City Chiefs. We fast forward all the way back to Thursday Night Football at this point, and I think the Chiefs just keep it all the same. Packers in LA. I think the Rams take the dub. And Niners in Detroit. I think the Detroit Lions get the upset, or not the upset, but the revenge from the year prior. So we got the 1-2 and the 1-2 from both sides, making it throughout. I don't think any upsets happened there. And now here we go. I got, again, flashback to the first week. Stafford and the Rams going into Detroit against Jared Goff. They end up going to the Super Bowl. Detroit Lions, this is your year to make it to the Super Bowl. And I think Joe Burrow upsets once again in Kansas City and goes to the Super Bowl, which will then put the Cincinnati Bengals against the Detroit Lions, the 1 seed from the NFC, the 2 seed from the AFC, and your winner of Super Bowl 59, your winners, the Cincinnati freaking damn Bengals. They're going to get the win. They're going to get the job done. The Bengals end up winning the Super Bowl with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase getting his contract paid, and end up just taking the dub. So there you go. That's my prediction. That is what I got the season going at. I am definitely going to be wrong with a lot of these things. We'll check back at the end of the year to see how wrong I am. But I do agree. I think the Lions win the division. Packers, yeah, I agree with that. I actually agree with this too. I can see this happening. This I agree with as well. Let's go to this side. I can see this happening. I can easily see this happening as well. I can see this happening. I can see that. I can see all that happening. Actually, I don't mind. I actually don't mind my picks. I don't mind it. And I think a Bengals Detroit Lions Super Bowl was what everybody's going to want to be cheering for. If it makes it to that point, you know, I think people are going to want to see the Detroit Lions knock off the Rams and the Niners, and then I think obviously if Bengals make it to the final with the Chiefs, I think they want to see them knock them off again. So that's what I got it at. That's how I have it going. The 2-seeded Bengals in the AFC end up winning the Super Bowl. So with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. Go to my main channel and do that over there as well. Guys, enjoy football. Enjoy the season, because it's going to be gone just like that. But right now, it's back, and it's here. And we don't have to think about that, and it's so nice. So until next time, guys, let me know in the comments who you think is going to win. Unbiased opinion. And let me know who your favorite team is and what you think your team's going to go. And what record do you think your favorite team will have at the end of the year? Guys, I'll see you when I see ya, and I'm out. And peace. Can't wait to come back to this video after the season's done and see I got everything wrong and the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl again. Every year.